Let's get some questions from you in the audience, and maybe someone will pick up on that we talked a lot about gender and a lot about women. Yeah, gentleman right there. If you just wait for a mic. Tell us who you are before you ask your question.
Can you hear me? Hi, yep. I'm Andy Cartland from ACRE, and I'll go straight on to the ethnicity side and other types of diversity as well, because it's been a brilliant talk, but it has been very focused around gender tonight. So diversity and inclusion as a function, often it is embedded, often HR, but also within the room here, it will often fall within corporate responsibility. So why does the CR function often to appear to lack ethnic diversity? And surely as a function which sometimes oversees diversity, we should reflect how things should be. So should we be concerned? And going back to what you were saying, Ronan, about the I syndrome, we should start with ourselves in this room.
Who wants to pick that up?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think there's any reason why, and I think you guys in this room would be able to tell us better than the people up here, to be honest, for CR teams, but all the solutions are out there in front of you. I think, we need to be really clear about all of our own personal unconscious biases, all of the unconscious biases that are coming through the organisational processes that we have within our companies, and we need to get on and change the makeup, and that means engaging with people right from the bottom of the ladder. So we've got a big program called Sky Academy, which brings in a much more diverse, across a whole gamut of diversity, group of people into the bottom of the organisation as part of our work to help young people make the most of their potential. But it's then about, coming back to the point we made earlier, of every single person in the team taking responsibility for the decisions that they're making, particularly the broad leadership team. I don't mean just the people at the top of the CR team, but anyone who has a managerial responsibility, so that every opportunity that there is to drive diversity within the team, that's taken, because I think CR teams are right at the heart of the innovative processes that drive a business forward. And if we are looking homogenous in terms of the CR teams themselves, then we're not helping ourselves.
I would also just say that every single thing we've set up here in the context of gender, which obviously cuts across, women of colour, ethnicity, whatever, also applies to ethnic and racial diversity, unconscious bias, prejudice, failure to champion, failure to include, failure to attract, failure to really sort of dive into the reasons why, etc., etc. Please take everything we've said and apply it across the board, because the same things are true, regardless of which area of diversity you're looking at.
Can I be a little bit controversial? I think sometimes one of the challenges is, where does the CR team sit in your organisation? Is it a program, or is it just how we do things around here? And I think one of the challenges is sometimes when you take things out, put them in a program, it may be right to incubate them for a period of time, but you may not be attracting the people who you want to actually take that and lead it and champion it going forward. And we've made business decisions about where we have corporate responsibility, where we have sustainability, other things, and it's not in the CEO's offices of corporate program anymore. It's in our marketing department, our commercial department, because we believe that's where it actually gets traction, because it's who we are and how we represent ourselves every single day to our customers. So I think also where you put it in the organisation can be a factor about how attractive it is to the broadest group of people.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's have another question. Yeah, here, and then we'll come right here.
Hi, my name is Derek Brown. I'm the founder of a company called The Talent Portfolio. We're a new startup helping companies to recruit talent beyond qualifications. I'd like to broaden the conversation to a new stream of diversity that I'm working on, which is qualifications. I think that we've seen too many businesses recruit talent based on academic results at 16, 18 and 21, and we're leaving a huge amount of talent on the table, which are just prejudiced by their exam results. And ultimately, when many people reflect who are leaders in their businesses today, their HR departments would not allow them into the business today. So we're really interested in understanding what your thoughts are.
Yeah. And in fact, it's so funny because I was discussing this with Axel just before this session. I was delighted to see last week that Grey London, one of the biggest ad agencies here, has just announced that they are taking the degree requirement out of qualifications to apply to Enjoin Grey, for precisely the reason of that they want to make their ranks much more diverse, and that is absolutely a self-determining filter in terms of qualifications. And I would love to see that operate much more across the board, particularly today, because it's no longer a determinant of anything when it comes to what you're actually looking for within your company.
Can we see that happening in the financial services sector?
I think it'll take time. I mean, a huge boost to that, and I'm with you that to get the most diverse, creative workforce of the future, you don't want to just have people that look like certain, stereotypes from the past. The apprenticeship programs are really helping because they are making companies and boards look carefully at young people and what they can bring. And with the proliferation of technology, you want young people. There's no point trying to hire a very old person, however diverse they may be in some sense, to try to design your mobile apps or think about social selling. So these trends make me much more optimistic. I think there are events, companies are broadening, even in financial services too, Axel. Who do we want to sponsor? It's not just the sort of the traditional universities and the traditional career fairs. It's let's get into the heart of what young people, where are they? Where do they want to be? What engages them? What are their passions? So I think it's a very, very good point. But companies need to think really creatively, how do we connect with those people and probably give them the right training and skill set to be able to add value.
Yeah.
And then celebrate them as well. And we have our apprenticeship and grad program at Sky in technology. What we're finding is that where we recruit across all the programs on passion, first of all, and then core skills rather than specific qualifications. With the apprentices and the graduates, within 6 months of starting on the programme, the apprentices have caught up in all the learning that the grads might have, but they have a really different way of thinking about things. Yeah. And they've probably been coding in their bedroom since they're about 3. I, of course, couldn't do that because I'm far too old. But, they bring a completely different way of thinking, a different approach to working to the team, and we're finding it massively valuable, which is why we're really massively increasing the number of apprentices that we have across the business.
Very quickly, Ron.
What Cindy flags, I think, is the trend that's happening in a lot of places. We don't look for CVs or academic results at entry level into our organisation at all. It's entirely done on competency testing, and I think a number of the bigger organisations, PwC and others, have said they go away from grades. One thing I would challenge, though, is we're a big recruiter of apprentices, but again, we have to address parity of esteem between the two routes, because otherwise what society is telling you is that somebody who goes through an apprenticeship is not as valuable to society as somebody who's got a degree. I don't have a degree. I run one of the largest businesses in the UK, so I'm passionate about the fact that we need to make sure that there is parity of esteem between all types of creativity, learning and capability.
Okay. Yeah, question right here in the front.
Hi, I'm Emma Avignon and I run Mentor Consulting, and I have the privilege of working with lots of large companies and having discussions at quite senior levels in terms of what they're doing to address diversity. And whilst I see a lot of them that have indeed got a good diversity, they've got more than their 3 women on their board, but convincing then the senior leadership how important diversity is lower down, how to do that. And I'm just really interested in hearing the perspectives from the panel in terms of how do you convince a leader? I know it makes good business sense, it's the right thing, all the things that Cindy said, but convincing somebody with a mindful of prejudice, a mindful of bias, and a different mindset, that's really hard, actually. So I'm just interested in your views, please.
Yeah, back to this how. Yeah.
And I want to say to that again, I keep using this catchphrase, but communication through demonstration. You're absolutely right. As Axel said earlier, the rational arguments have been laid out till kingdom come, and nobody is acting on them. To your point, Julie, it's about making them feel. And so I tend to advise people within companies, you actually have to get creative about this, and you have to find the demonstration, and you have to make them live it. Whether that is by deliberately setting up and showcasing something, within a meeting, within a conference, within a corporate away day, whatever environment. Literally, find a way to make the demonstration live in front of them in a way that makes the light bulb go off in their head. Ah, now I get it.
And can I add, that's exactly right. Create the light bulb moment for them. However, I would also be asking, back to the values point, in the same way that a non-exec would say, really, this guy doesn't seem to understand why we put the customer first. We would say, I don't think he's the right leader. If somebody was saying, I simply do not understand any of Cindy's point, I just don't get it, I would be saying, really, they're the best leader we can find for that division. So, they'll create the light bulb moment, but if somebody's just not going to get it for whatever reason, perhaps they belong to a different generation.
I think it's a real practical way. It's a balanced scorecard for corporate performance. It's the what and the how, and you need to have both. And actually, Jack Welch, who had a serious reputation of being a serious businessman, was the first at GE to say, you can miss on all your whats and still get a bonus if you got the how right. If you miss on all the hows, no matter what you did, you won't get paid a bonus. So you can make it happen.
Yep. Question, brother. I see you.
Yeah, my name's Stephen Bediako. I'm CEO of the Social Innovation Partnership. I want to challenge some of the discussion, really. I think this concept of everything that's been discussed for women applies for other minorities. I don't think that's a fair point. You know, even if you just look at the idea of kind of unconscious bias, and you mentioned earlier that, you know, if women are not in positions of power, they're perceived as the girlfriend or the secretary. I think what can happen with BMEs, especially young black men, is they could be perceived as trouble or unreliable, you know, and that's been my experience working in the corporate world and now also as a founder and CEO of my own organization. So I'm quite interested to hear your views quite specifically on, you know, the ethnic diversity piece and kind of how you go about addressing some of that.
Yeah, bit too easy, your response, I guess, is what he's saying.
Right. Well, no, it's interesting because, I mean, this is something that I champion a lot in the tech world and in the advertising world as well. And you're right, there are different unconscious biases for male and female in this area. I mean, to be frank, what I say to people who actively want a more diverse organisation is simply that you're going to have to put serious work in. And actually, you know, beyond the female piece, it becomes more and more of an effort because one of the things that I've been doing specifically for this, as a result of conversations I've had with the American Association of Advertising Agencies, I've been actively, for my own benefit, looking to compile a mini database of African Americans working in the ad industry in the US. And one of the things that is particularly frustrating about that is that my industry is very old world order in this way. The American market particularly divides itself into what it calls general market agencies, i.e. white, and then urban agencies, Hispanic agencies, and there's a whole subset of the industry. And I'm trying to challenge that by finding the people to showcase. And it requires a lot more research and a lot more effort in order to identify, recruit, you know, celebrate and change that. And so the point I make to companies is precisely that. It is even more work than the gender dimension, but it's enormously worthwhile. And I will just say that there's a great quote a friend of mine made about the bias in Silicon Valley, which is that we will know that we have reached, you know, sort of diversity parity the day that as many ideas from mediocre black women get funded as ideas from mediocre white men. Okay, and that's what we're going for.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Yeah, I want to go right to the back. Go ahead.
Harry from O2. Hi, Ronan. So Ronan knows me from championing social mobility back at O2 as part of the government's social mobility business compact. So I just wanted to ask the panel, really, if you've got any suggestions as how we can encourage more companies, maybe through Cindy's model, to tackle social mobility.
Can I go on that one?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, that's such an important point. I think where companies are getting a head start is with companies like the Social Mobility Foundation, schools, you know, academy schools, for example, in inner cities, building links with them, because you are then right at the heart of that community and listening to the community. Back to what the gentleman said here about stereotypes. The best way to diffuse a stereotype is to hire one, you know. So I think there's a lot of channels, much more can be done, but I'm very optimistic on that front, because if you get people in from these backgrounds, you can then go there, educate the parents, to your point. You know, some parents are unaware of the world of work. They never experienced it themselves. So how can you expect their children to be receptive to some of the points we're talking about? So you've got to get right into the communities, educate the parents, educate the children, and keep working at it. So I've certainly found in retail and financial services, you know, many, many avenues to explore. And I think it's a very, very important point.
Okay, I'm going to move us on quite quickly. We've only got a few minutes. I want to take another couple of questions. Yeah, is there someone there? Yeah.
Malvina Lacrosse from Bank of America. I heard an article maybe a couple of years ago on a program called Planet Money, which really looked into the issue of why there's so few women in tech and many minorities in the States in particular. And it brought it down to 2 points, which is advertising and product development. And they really went back in history and looked at when the first Ataris and Game Boys and things were coming out, that they created a product that was male targeted, and that the advertising agencies picked up on that. And as a result, young boys were learning how to code at a very young age, playing off of these toys, and the girls weren't interested in the toys because the advertising wasn't targeting them. And when you look at advertising today on very sophisticated products and iPads and stuff, they still seem very sexualized and very feminine. And I would really put it to the advertising agencies who don't seem to be championing as much as these diversity issues to change that perception. And what do you do to get those tools in the hands of lesser, financially capable children so that they can learn how to program and they can learn how to code, and you can make it attractive to women and inner city children to then come up with ideas that are innovative, because there's clearly a huge market, as you say. I mean, women are 50% of it, but I would say that the largest area for growth is also from poor classes of people moving up and accessing those products.
All right.
No, absolutely. Go to the website 3%, 3%conf.com. This is a wonderful movement, actually, started by a female creative director, Kat Gordon. The 3% Conference, I've given the opening and closing keynotes for the past 4 years. It is called the 3% Conference because 3% of ad agency creative directors are women. We're out to change that, because when we change that, everything you talk about changes. As I said, we are played back to ourselves through the male lens. And actually, by the way, when you have 50-50 gender equality in advertising agency creative directors, not only will you see better depictions of women in advertising, you will see better depictions of men. I'm fed up with seeing young male morons in beer ads, hapless husbands, helpless fathers. Young men in my social networks talk about the fact they hate how they're depicted in advertising. And so when you have gender equality at the top of our industry, all of that changes. There are a whole ton of us absolutely working on it. Check out the 3% Conference. Come to it in New York at the end of October. I'm giving you the closing keynote. It'll be amazing. Worth the trip.
There you go. Is there someone who's got one more question, a real quick one that's going to require a very quick answer? Yeah, let's go to the back there. I see 2 hands. Whoever gets the mic first.
Okay, this is a really quick question to everyone. It's Alex from Context. Can you give me one example that isn't your company of a really good example, a really good case study where diversity has been implemented and led to business success?
Okay. Ronan, do you want to start with that?
A company other than our own.
A company other than their own, is that the question?
Yeah, I'll give you one. Tim Cook taking over Apple has changed Apple. I can tell you that as one of their biggest customers, definitely.
Yep, okay. Julie.
Honestly, there are so many. I couldn't give you an example where it didn't.
Okay. Ella?
I think what we see is where there are sectors that have big talent problems, be that the finance sector or the consultancy sector, where the war for talent is much more progressed than it is in other sectors. They've moved faster and harder on diversity, and the companies who have moved fastest and hardest have seen the biggest benefits. And as the war on talent gets bigger everywhere, the onus on companies to act in the best interests of their long-term growth prospects is just getting bigger.
Okay, and finally.
But I will just go back to my point about making a shit ton of money. Check out the company Theranos, founded by Elizabeth Holmes. It's one of Silicon Valley's multi-billion-dollar valuation unicorns. Silicon Valley funds in its own image. And so Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos is an example of what a female founder can do, where many more female founders should be funded to create many more multi-billion-dollar unicorns.
As always, the crowd have put together a fantastic panel for you all this evening. Hopefully it will inform your roundtable discussions now. I just want to say thanks to Ronan, Julie, Bella and Cindy. Thank you very much indeed.